This is John Ward, welcoming you to another presentation of Tennessee football on home video. The story you're about to see unfold is one of adventure and achievement. It's the story of teamwork, commitment, and the will to win.
Doesn't need a lot of... Oh! He took a weapon!
Welcome back to the Blue Chip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. This is Bray. That's Kason, and that's P. And today we're just going to be previewing the Kentucky game versus our Tennessee Volunteers. We're going to talk about a couple of other games, throughout this country. We'll probably talk about some of that Tyson Fury fight some. What else we got on the docket here? We're going to talk about the Michigan scandal. We're going to talk about Nico, Gaston Moore. That's something that everyone has been asking about, talking about. Does it make sense? Doesn't it? We're going to get y'all's thoughts and feedback on that. And, that's pretty much going to be it. Let me see what else we got. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything else is just going to be stuff that y'all add into it. So with all that being said, P, what do you think about this big matchup we got tonight?
Man, we got a big one, man. Kentucky team that we've been kind of dominant over the past however long since beginning of time. We've kind of owned this rivalry, if you want to call it that. I think it's more of a rivalry for Kentucky fans than this for our guys. But this is you might want to call it maybe a letdown spot for the Vols. We got to be careful here. Played A&M, Bama, two physical teams back-to-back weeks. Go on the road to play another team that at least tries to be physical in Kentucky. So it's definitely a game where you got to have your antennas up. We know traditionally teams after they play Bama typically have are not as physical the following week. So that's definitely something to watch. We kind of think it going in the run game. That's what they want to do. What's his name? Ray Davis, whatever his name is. Yep. That running back. He's good. He's the truth, man. He's an NFL caliber guy. So got a bit of corral him. But I think up front, we'll be able to control the line of scrimmage. I think we're a better team than they are. Yeah. And they don't do anything special, which, whenever Kentucky plays a team that can match them talent-wise or be better than them talent-wise, they're going to struggle. And I think Tennessee definitely has the edge in talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is another front seven game. And, just really on every single level, Tennessee just matches up so well with what they want to do. And, you want to talk about an offense that you can tell what they're doing, right? Yeah. We're going to see a whole lot of heavy sets, whole lot of, two tight end sets. They're just going to try to play downhill physical football, pulling tackles, pulling guards. Center's going to pull some. We have to get into our run fits well, something that we talked about throughout this week. Our linebackers have to have a really big game, something that we have not talked about throughout this week. I'll just be honest with you, man. I think that our second best backer right now is my guy, JT Lander.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's balling.
I'm trying to find a good nickname for him, like Jerry T or, something.
JT.
Yeah. Hey, he is a dog. I would, in this game, this is the type of a game that he is going to thrive in because, he identifies what's going on and he's just full speed. Yeah. He's going to go blow up, pulling guards and tackles, things like that. He's going to go and blow plays up. So look out for him. As one of those underrated guys, or a guy that people aren't really looking out for to have a really big game. Yeah, and, if he can get enough playing time.
Yeah,
hope that Herring can kind of step up in this game. He hasn't been really great, especially when teams do things like motions and like counters, things like that to try to throw you off. So teams have done that to us. Florida did it to us. We saw Texas A&M try to do it to us. Pretty much everybody since that Florida game has tried to do it where they, the motions and all that window dressing to get our linebackers to kind of bite on those fakes and to just open up holes. And we saw that in the second half of that Alabama game, when that big run came in and, the coach said, hey, that was on us. But, it's things like that that just kind of bothers me with Herring. I'm hoping that he's got it figured out. This is actually a really good game for him to kind of like learn and, maybe get some confidence in. Because, like you said, Pete, we are the more talented football team. So, maybe he just plays off of his instincts and has a really big game. But, I'm sure that Aaron Beasley is going to play well. Our safeties are going to be, big and key in this game. But it's pretty much it. We have to stop Ray Davis. And if we stop him, we should have a very, very good game.
I think so, man. You hit it on the head, man. that's the one thing Kentucky does do a good bit of is they like to kind of send that guy in motion. The slot guy, or maybe they'd be the wide guy. They'll send him in motion. They will do jet sweeps to him, or maybe like an end around to him, and of course they'll just kind of send him in motion, then run a zone play the other way. So that is going to be key. Our backers do have to stay disciplined, read their keys. You did your breakdown of Keenan Peely the other day, and that's something that he did at a very, very high level. He's reading his keys, and that's how, as soon as the ball snapped, he's already moving towards where the ball's going to be going because he's reading his keys. Herring, T-Lander, these younger guys, Carter, they've got to be very sound and disciplined, reading their keys and getting to the ball. Because I think this is a game, if you're a linebacker, this is the type of game you want to play in. A team's going to try to run it right at you. It's not a whole lot of window dressing. They're pretty much going to tell you what they're going to do, and they're going to do it. Just get downhill, be physical, blow guys up, take on blocks. Something you heard Coach John Marie talking about this week in his presser. Hey, we got to be able to take on blocks this week, get off blocks, and make tackles in space. And I think that's going to be key, man. We've got to corral that running back they got. He's a guy that can make you miss in space. He can run through a tackle. So we got to gang tackle him. Be sound, disciplined. I think Kentucky will, kind of have some things because I believe they had a bye week last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I'm sure they'll have some things kind of dialed up that they think will work on us. So we have to be disciplined in that. Look for the trick plays early. But I mean, I just don't really see these guys being able to move the ball on us. I don't see them running it down our throats for 4 quarters, and I definitely don't see them passing on us. 4 quarters.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be really, really difficult. That quarterback Leary, he's 54, 55%. 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Mm-hmm. This is a game that, we should be able to get some turnovers. I think that Tennessee should have several turnovers in this game. Just, very heavy key on Ray Davis, not just in that run game, coming out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. And, as long as we can slow him down, I feel like we're going to have a lot of success on defense, kind of force Leary into throwing the football into some tight windows. Obviously, now we're down Haddon, who is our best cover guy in our secondary period. Yeah. And you know what? There's a lot of people who were really hard on Haddon and just didn't understand what he brought to this football team, not understanding that one of the great things about having Haddon is that he was great in coverage, but a lot of teams, it seems like, was just keying off of last year's film, and they just kept going at him. And he just kept on making plays. Mm-hmm. And that helped us out so many times in critical third down situations, for this football team, because he was right there to make those plays. Now we've got a guy like Gabe Jeudy-Lally who, he's played pretty decent. I've talked about this several times. I don't like him down the field in coverage. He's a good squat corner. He's going to come up, play physical football. But down the field, I'm a little bit afraid of what that's going to look like throughout this season. I think that Haddon is a huge loss. Slaughter's coming back. He's got like a foot injury or a toe injury or something.
I think a foot injury, I think it was.
He's still trying to get himself back into the groove of things. Hopefully he's gotten more healthy. And we'll see a lot from him. Turner is a guy who we've kind of talked about. He can help us, if Slaughter or if, Gabe Jeudy needs a spell. And then, a guy like Ricky Gibson, this is a true freshman who hasn't necessarily played great, but, as the season has gone on, it seems like he's kind of picked it up some more. So he's a guy that you have some trust in. Obviously, Coach Banks is going to have some things dialed up to, kind of like protect the guys who aren't good in certain areas, just try to hide, where we're kind of weak at in that secondary. But our safeties are still veterans, 4, 5, 6-year guys back there that understand what's going on. T-Mac playing star. He's done a pretty good job in run support this season. Hasn't been the best in coverage, but that spot, that's probably the most difficult spot to cover at.
It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, that's really tough. Covering those slots, tight ends, they're either bigger than you or, they're faster than you, and they've got a whole lot of field to kind of move around with. So it's hard to be able to guard that. But I think that he's held his own. I think he's done a pretty solid job.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough spot because, when you're in that nickel spot, you also have some run support responsibilities too. And so you have to be kind of quick to trigger in the run game as well as, like you said, you're in space, usually against the smallest, quickest guy, the fastest guy. It's a tough spot to be in. He has a two-way go. But I think he's done a solid job. He's usually in good position. It's just for him making plays on the ball when it's in the air. But I expect our pass rush to get after him today, man.
That's it.
We didn't get as much pressure last week as we wanted to against Bama.
Yeah.
And they got some good guys.
Well, you know what? we still had 4 sacks, which is our, that's our season average.
Yeah,
we're averaging 4 sacks, and we was getting held a lot. In that second half, I don't want to go too far into this, but you know what? Let me just kind of talk about this because this is something. All right, so us growing up in Georgia, right? We're pretty much like 90s kids, so we grew up, in that former era where our biggest competition was always Florida. We didn't really worry about Georgia. We didn't really, worry about Bama. And I know that some of the older school fans are, more Bama, like our father, he hates Alabama.
Yeah.
But for us growing up, it was like we hated Florida. And because we live in Georgia and we had to hear from all those fans all the time, we really hate Georgia. But now after this Bama game, just seeing all those Alabama fans and just like how they're talking and chirping, it's like, I hate almost Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. I hate them almost equally, but I think it's still Georgia's still a little bit of a higher. Yeah. But I mean, it's like Bama and Florida have elevated themselves to a place of hate inside of my heart.
Yeah, me too.
They are right there, very close with Georgia.
Me too.
So
yeah,
hopefully we can see them again.
Yeah, hopefully so, man. And it's something we kind of talked about, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves. Is we just got to handle business. We got to win out. Okay, and we got to hope for just a little bit of chaos on the East. I think Georgia's poised to lose to either Florida or Ole Miss. Heck, maybe Mizzou might give them a game. I think they'll lose at least one before they see us. Yeah. And in Florida, we need them to lose 2 games, which they got Georgia today. They got who they got? They got LSU, I think, next week or
LSU, Arkansas,
Mizzou. They got Mizzou.
Yep, Mizzou. So
2 or 3 of those.
I mean, potentially, yeah. But you know what? I've been saying all season, people have been coming crazy. I think Florida's better than people are giving them credit for. I think, against Utah week 1, I think we talked about this.
Second and third string quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, that's second string quarterback. But to me, when I was watching that game, it seemed like Florida, it seemed like just like kind of a new team trying to gel together. It seemed like a quarterback, like some miscues and things like that. And then against Kentucky, I mean, that game to me, it's almost a game that I kind of throw out. Just because when I watch that game, you look at the backers, look at the way they played. It just didn't sound like they were into that game.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Just from going through the film, because I hadn't actually really watched that game. I maybe saw a couple of clips prior to this week, but as I've gone through my film study, what I noticed is it seemed like Florida kind of had Ray Davis bottled up a lot of times, and this is something that I talked about, in the keys to Tennessee's game was we've got to be able to wrap him up, and we've got to stop him because. He's an older guy, I think he came from Temple, then went to Vandy, and now he's here, and it's just he's an older guy. He plays with a different type of strength. He's got that grown man strength. Yeah. We're gonna have to come up with a whole lot of people and tackle him. But back to your point, though, P, it did kind of seem like Florida, like their game plan was good enough to be able to go out and beat the Wildcats in that game, but they just didn't perform the way that they probably normally would. So that's the best game that he's had this entire season. Yeah. And I kind of looked at some of his other game stats, and I'm not really blown away by. I mean, I think up against like Eastern Kentucky, he only had like 50 something yards on 12 carries, and it was something like that. So I mean, we just have to come up and tackle him. We have to play passionate football, and if we do that, I think that we'll be fine. And Florida is going to lose a couple more games. I think for sure. Florida's going to lose a couple more. Georgia, I mean, we'll see how they look without Brock Bowers.
Yeah, we'll see.
This is, we've been saying they're either going to come out and look great because now they are forced to go to some of the other great players that they have on that roster, or they're just going to falter because they can't figure out what to do. So I said that Georgia is either going to blow Florida out or they're going to lose today.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that.
We'll get into that, yeah.
That's a game that I don't even want. Like I want them both to lose.
I know.
You know what I mean? I hate both of them.
Look for some playmakers for Georgia. Ra Thomas, Dominic Little.
Hold on. We'll get into it. Yeah.
We got to talk about our offense today too.
Yeah. So let me just get into this because this was a really good question. And I'm taking a look at the chat, y'all, and I'm gonna get to everybody's stuff. But so AJ Lofton says, y'all think Joe will run as much as last week? P, I'll let you comment.
So since the kind of second half of that A&M game, like I've been saying for a couple weeks now, ever since he trucked their starting middle linebacker, knocked him out cold, that just seemed to get him going. Like he's been running a lot more physical. It's like he realized he's 6'5", 245 now. I mean, you go back to the Bama game, I know we had a key. I think it was a 3rd and 1 or 2. Maybe it might have been 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a QB keeper. He runs out the middle. There wasn't really anything there, but he sticks his nose in there, pushes the pile, gets 2 yards on it. Like, he's starting to really use his weight and his size, his speed.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a more valuable runner than he has been. But I think I heard Austin Price and his bunch talking about this week. Is last week I think Hooker did run the ball a decent amount against Kentucky. Last season he ran a decent amount against them, but he didn't have a ton of yards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure exactly what Kentucky is doing. They necessarily can't the quarterback.
Yeah,
but I know Hendon didn't necessarily get loose last year. So I don't know if Heupel's kind of thinks about that, and that's not part of the game plan. But if you look at the past 2 weeks, last 6 quarters of football we've played,
mm-hmm.
the QB run has been more a part of the game plan.
Yeah.
So I definitely do think we'll see a decent amount of QB runs, but I don't know. We'll call it maybe 10 carries or so, maybe for him.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whenever we play against Kentucky, once like whenever Joe Milton at least trucks one of the guys,
Mm-hmm.
the whole Kentucky team is going to be like, they don't want no piece of it.
Absolutely. So what they do on defense is it's almost like a cover 2 drop. So you'll see a lot of their guys will just kind of drop and play like a short underneath zone, pretty close to the line of scrimmage, 5 to 7 yards off of it. And it makes it difficult. Like if you look at their defense, they're actually ranked number 12 in the country in rush defense. And I think that's part of it. They do drop 8, but they hover guys right around that line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And, I guess once they identify run, they're able to kind of come up pretty quickly. But I do think that based off of who they played up against, they haven't played up against anybody that's a quarterback like Joe Milton, that's that big, that fast, that strong. Yeah. And, I think that if he comes out in this game early on and if he can truck a few people, then we have a really good opportunity to be able to, kind of soften some things up for them. They're not going to be as anxious to come up and make plays, especially up against somebody big and strong like Joe. So I think that, that's part of the reason why Hendon Hooker didn't get too loose last season is just because of the way that they play. Mm-hmm. It's a weird conservative, but at the same time, there's a little bit of genius to it, but there is one thing that I will say about their defensive coverage is that if we can go 4 verts, if we can find ways to maybe get some deep crossing routes, things like that, people will be open because it's usually only about 3 deep. Now, up against us, you'll probably see a little bit more 4 deep, quarters type of coverage. But Coach Heupel will find those one-on-one situations. He will scheme it up. He'll be able to isolate some people, and we'll be able to take our shots deep. Yeah. Where we have to be careful at is more like, I'll say 5 to maybe 15, 20 yards down that field. Kentucky has a lot of guys inside of those areas. Yeah,
I am kind of curious to see how they come out and play us this year after how we just gashed them last year. And even the year before, the game was closer. We were just big playing them to death. Yeah. And so we'll see kind of if Stoops has a more conservative approach. I went back and watched a little bit of that game from last season against those guys. And surprisingly, they play a decent amount of man. And maybe that's because of how we spread you guys out. Maybe they're trying to stack the box.
I would love to see them try to play.
I did because I don't think their secondary is very good. I think they tackle pretty well. I think they tackle pretty well in space, but I think they don't do a great job dropping to their zones like you mentioned this week as well. And I think we'll have guys open, just like we say every week, making a throw, making a catch.
Yeah, and then that's another place that we need somebody to step up at big time. So we saw Squirrel White last week. Excuse me, and that was a game that we kind of felt like this is going to be his opportunity to really kind of come out even more, even though he came into the game as our leading wide out. And he's from Alabama. Okay. He's not a big guy in stature, but he's a dog. And I think that just kind of goes to show that football is not always just about size and speed. It's really about heart. And he plays with a whole lot of heart, and he, again, he's just a straight up dog. So expect for us to target Squirrel more in this game, but somebody has to step up outside of that. We didn't see a whole lot of Chaz Nimrod last week. Don't understand why. I want to see more out of him. Keaton, he's still hit or miss. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. Not as a what is he? He's like a 5th-year senior or something.
Yeah, he's Harrison Bailey's class, so whatever Harrison Bailey is.
There's absolutely no excuse for him to be doing what he's doing. So he has to step up big time. And Caleb Webb, he doesn't feel like he does a whole lot of fighting for that football. Just doesn't have that same type of dog that we want. Brew being out is huge. You know, that's a huge loss for this team because he was the biggest dog that we had at wide receiver. Now, Dante Thornton, you know, I hate to give up on a guy, but I've given up on him. Okay, I don't want to see him. Okay, listen, I don't want to see him out there again.
Yeah,
because the moment is too big for him. And I'm saying that he could have a really big game up against a team, up against a team that we're playing up against today because they're not, considered that great. Mm-hmm. And that's what it seems like to me. It seems like he's more of like a front-running player that doesn't have that dog and like, I'm going to go take over this game. Everyone's boosting this team up. I'm going to prove everybody else wrong. Yeah. He's more like, oh, well, this team's not good, so I can go out here and make catches now. And that I don't like you cannot have a football team with players like that. Yeah. This is the SEC. And I just don't think he's an SEC caliber player. And I'm just going to call you out, Dante. You're either going to step up or he needs to get up off of this team, period. I'm sick of seeing dropped passes on a consistent basis. You're 6'5", okay? You're long, you're rangy, you're fast. You should have, more yards than Squirrel White. You should have 500-600 yards with, 15, 20 catches. I mean, heck,
you
4, 5, 6 touchdowns.
You imagine putting Squirrel White's heart and Dante Thornton?
I mean, that's what you need. Yeah.
He'd be the number one player in the whole country.
So I'm curious to see what is Coach Heupel going to do to get some of these younger guys, more involved in our game plan. Nathan Leacock, 6'4", 6'5", something like that, 220, whatever. He's a track guy. We saw he's a very powerful runner. Yeah. He's a strong guy. Mm-hmm. He high points footballs. And I think that early on, like in spring camp, he has some difficulties catching the football. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you're going to have to keep working him into this, working him into our system. I think so. Because we're going to have somebody at some point in the season. We keep on talking about us winning out. It's going to be tough to win out against some of these better teams if we don't have any. We have one wide receiver who we can trust.
That's it.
That's really hard to do. Teams are going to, key on our run game. We've got to have somebody on the outside, just, besides Sproul, who can help us out. Yeah. So I agree. That is my biggest concern for this team moving forward. I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah, me too. That's definitely a huge factor. But hopefully get the run game going today. Didn't run well last week, especially Jalen Wright. He needs to get it going this week. Dylan Sampson, I mean, he had a pretty good average per carry. Only had like 4 carries last week, I think, for 28 yards, 7 yards a carry. So want to see him more involved, like we say every single freaking week. But hopefully they get him involved. And, we've got to get the run game going, I think. Like last week we didn't run like we wanted to. So this is going to be a big week to kind of see where we're at. And like we talked about earlier, teams typically they're not as physical the week after they play Bama for whatever reason. So I think that'd be a big test and kind of a tell-tape for the game today.
Yeah, I think we're up to the test. I want to get into this right here. So Tennessee Mountain Man says, is Keenan Pili going to play today? So no, he's not going to be playing today. Sounds like maybe Mizzou. And, there's a slight possibility that we could see him next week, maybe in some spurts, but probably not. Mm-hmm. I think that he will be back, being more full speed-esque, or, kind of practicing with the team next week and, trying to get him geared up for that Missouri game. And then after that, we got Georgia, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the one that we're really going to need him in. And, that's going to be a huge benefit and a huge help to this football team with Haddon going out, because Keenan Pili is a guy who not only is going to do an excellent job helping us stop the run, but he does an excellent job in pass coverage. Yeah, he's he's a big guy, long, he's rangy, and he's a veteran. He's going to be able to identify plays very quickly. He gets in the passing lanes well, and that's going to help us out tremendously. Again, not too much on the outside where Haddon is going to be missed at, but it is going to help a lot, in the middle of our defense. Yeah, and, if teams haven't really watched a whole lot of film on us in recent weeks, they may think, hey, we can attack the middle of Tennessee's defense, and they could be attacking some interceptions. Oh, yeah. What I'm saying?
He's a baller.
Yeah. So for sure. So let me get into some more of these chats. Something else, too, I definitely want to get into this Nico talk, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. So Stingray says we need to play 60 minutes as we haven't on the road. Absolutely. AJ Lofton again says Slaughter just doesn't turn his head to look for the ball. So this is something that I've heard a lot of people talking about. And, the only time that you really have to turn your head. So number one, whenever you're playing on the outside playing corner, you have to be in phase, which means that you are in a good position in coverage to be able to turn your head. But if you're not in a good position, you've got to be able to catch up first before you can turn your head and make a play on that football. So
Right.
I know that's, kind of like X's and O's. It's kind of, maybe more of a deeper dive. But I think that's – I don't want to say that it's an overrated thing, but people have to understand that sometimes you've got to catch up before you can turn your head. And it's much better to get that PI call than it is to give up a touchdown because you're trying to turn your head and play too much by the rules.
Yeah, I mean that's why they coach it. DB coaches, that's why they coach it. If you're not in phase, like you said, which basically in phase means that you can touch your receiver. If you can touch them, you're pretty much in phase. I mean, not necessarily, but you're pretty much in phase. And so, if you're trailing a guy, if you're behind your receiver, I can still hear my college coaches saying you can't turn your head. He ain't throwing it to you. He's throwing it to the receiver. So what are you looking back at the ball for? Because if the guy's in front of you and you turn your head, it's going to go over your head and right to his hands.
Yeah.
So you're taught at that
that's
point.
Going to be 6.
Exactly. So at that point, you're taught to play through with the receiver's hands. You kind of read his eyes when he looks for the ball. If you feel good about it, maybe you look back, but really you're just playing through his hands. When his hands go up, you shoot through his hands and you knock it out, which we saw Slaughter do that last week in the end zone and led to an interception for Jalen McCullough. Yeah, so
for sure.
That's how they're coached to do it.
That's it, for sure. So I'm going to get into some more of these.
Picked it off.
Let's see what else we got here. Let me see. How many yards rushing do we need to win today? Okay, so that's a pretty interesting question. Yeah. I don't think that I think Heupel's magic number is like 175 or something like that. So I think that we need to try to shoot for that. This is a really interesting game because Kentucky likes to take a lot of time off of that clock. And, usually they get the clock, the play clock down up under 10 seconds before they actually run plays. Yeah. And, so I feel like we're going to have to do a good job of sustaining drives and of being able to put up points. And, I feel like we can do it. Might be a whole lot of shorter plays. We just have to keep on capitalizing on whatever openings Kentucky's defense is giving us. So maybe 175, but I don't even know if that's necessary. If they come up and play strong, run, then we can throw it over everybody's heads. And, let's just score as soon as we can score this early and often. We need to score early and often.
Yep, I agree.
Now let's see what else we got here. Hendon didn't need to run last year from the way the offense was wide open. Yeah, and that's very true too. Obviously the offense was a lot more explosive last season than what it is this season. So yeah, Hendon didn't necessarily have to run a lot in that game. Hopefully this turns out to be like a very similar deal.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Hopefully we get guys open. I think that Hype will talk about this week as well, is, the way they control the clock, like you just talked about. You really got to capitalize on each possession, especially with the new clock rules, not stopping on first downs or getting out of bounds.
Yeah.
Possession is going to be limited. So whatever it takes, whether it's run the ball, passing, whatever it is, we've got to capitalize. We're getting the red zone. We got to get touchdowns. And, we got to get points on every drive this week.
Yeah. So you know what? Let's go ahead and get into our picks because it's almost noon. Let's get that started right now.
Yeah, I like the picks too, man.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one that we've got, and y'all, this is not going to be in order from Tom. It's going to be in alphabetical order. But the first one that we've got on the docket is at 3:30 p.m., and it's Auburn versus Mississippi State. And the game is at Auburn. Auburn is favored by 6.5 points. The over-under is 41. Who do y'all got? Just try to make it quick.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. We'll go down. So this one I think I got Auburn in this one. Or it's at Auburn.
Yeah.
I know they run the ball well. Mississippi State doesn't run the ball too well. I think Auburn will be able to get after the passer this week. I know Mississippi State likes to pass it, so they'll probably have a hard time, kind of getting it down the field. And I like Auburn to control the ball and win this one, probably 24-14, something like that.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Auburn's gonna win probably 31 to 20 to 21.
Right.
So I think Auburn's probably gonna have it. So I think Auburn's gonna win because I think Auburn is more of a better team.
Okay.
Yeah, Auburn's different at home. I saw that last week. They played, pretty good at home this year. I like Auburn 24-17.
24-17. Okay. I've got Auburn at home too. I'm going to go with Mississippi State. I mean, those are two pretty bad offenses. I'm going to go 21-14.
Nice.
All right, let's get into the next one. Next one is BYU at Texas at 3:30. Texas is favored by 20 points. Over under is 50. Who y'all got?
Man, I don't know a ton about BYU this season. It's at Texas. Texas 20-point favorite, so it must be for a reason.
Yeah.
They are without their starting quarterback in Quinn Ewers, but I heard the backup's pretty good. And, of course, they got Arch Manning as well. So, man, it's a tough call. I think this game will be close. BYU's got a bunch of 25-year-olds in that roster. I think they'll keep it close. But we're going to call this one probably 34-27 Texas.
All right.
Oh yeah, I think it's probably going to be. I got Texas. I think 30. Actually, I think 24-14 Texas.
Okay.
Yep. It's gonna be interesting to see how Texas plays. Malik is out. I still like Texas 38-14.
All right. So I've got Texas in this game too. It's at home. You know, BYU, like people saying, they're gonna have a whole lot of older guys. But I'm gonna take Texas and I'm gonna pick them to win by 20. I'm gonna go. Let's go 35-10. All right, next one, Louisville versus Duke. The game is at Louisville. It's at 3:30. Louisville's favored by 6 points. The over-under is 46. Who y'all got?
Man, so does anybody know, is Louisville still undefeated or do they lose?
I think they lost to Pitt.
Yeah.
Lost to Pitt. So, I mean, Duke's a scrappy ball club. It's at Louisville. I think Duke's quarterback's probably still out. They played a close game against who was that? Who did they play last week?
Florida State.
Florida State. Gave them a good 3 quarters, I think it was. Man, it's a tough call. Louisville -6. I'm gonna go ahead and go Louisville on this one. Louisville wins this one probably 28-24 Louisville.
All right.
I got Louisville since Duke's quarterback is out. So because I know Duke's quarterback can run pretty good. So I got Louisville probably 34-7.
Wow.
With Riley Leonard being out Duke quarterback, it's at Louisville. Offense in Louisville's hands. I like Louisville in a 14-10 type of game. Very low score.
See that?
All right. So I've got Duke in this one. I'm gonna go ahead and take Duke for the upset. I'm gonna pick Duke. What's the over under is 46 by 6. I'm gonna go Duke 24, Louisville 17. All right, so this one right here, this is the game that we was talking about before. This is Florida versus UGA. Hey, both of these teams. The game's in Jacksonville, so it's a neutral site. 3:30. Georgia's favored by 14. Over under is 49. I'm just gonna start this off real quick. I hope both of these teams lose. Okay, I hope both of these teams play terrible. I hope it's a sloppy, muddy game. And, I hope that it's a 0-0, 15 overtime game. Somebody squeaks out a 3-yard, somebody squeaks out a field goal or something. And wins it that way. So,
yeah. No, I agree, man. I've been going back and forth on, we do this. Something we used to talk about, with Drew Swick's mom. He's the head coach at Collins Hill, a high school down here in Georgia. If we're in a situation where Georgia needs to win to give Tennessee a chance to go to SC title, who are you going for? Well, hey, we're still going for the other team. Okay, I'm sorry, ball fans, but that's just how much we hate those guys. I think it'd probably be better for us, honestly, for Georgia to win this one. Just because I think Florida will lose to LSU, but I think they'll beat the other 2 teams. But on this one, man, this is going to be a good game, better than people think. I got Florida coming in here. Hyped up, ready to go, neutral field. I like Florida to be able to have success on the ground and through the air. I think that quarterback's kind of coming into his own. I think he's like #1 passer in the conference right now, I think, in terms of efficiency. So I like Florida to win this one. I'm going to go probably with the over. I'm going to go probably 27-21 Florida.
I think it's probably going to be 0-0. These are both bad teams. I don't know how Tennessee lost to Florida, but whenever Tennessee plays to Georgia, it's going to be absolutely rocking stadium.
Can't wait for that.
Georgia's probably gonna. I think it's probably going to be 0-0. Both these teams play absolutely disgustingly horrible. I think it's probably going to be 0-0.
It's gonna be interesting to see how we at Georgia comes out without Brock Bowers. Hopefully we can use our playmakers like Dominic Glover, Raw Thomas. I think Lad McCarthy should be fully healthy now. Oscar Delp needs to step up. So I like Georgia 42-7. Go Dogs.
Wow.
There's no way. All right.
No.
So now we're getting into the 12 o'clock game. So we've got Florida State versus Wake Forest at noon. It's at Wake Forest. Florida State is favored by 20.5 points. Over under is 52. Who y'all got?
I got Florida State liking the cover. We'll call this one probably 41-10, something like that.
All right.
I got Florida State probably 34-31. I got Florida.
Right.
Florida State. So I mean.
This is an interesting game for me. Wake Forest, it's kind of a sleepy road game. I think it's at Wake Forest. I like Florida State 31-24.
Yeah, I like Florida State to dominate. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to take it back. Did y'all know that Wake Forest has beat Florida State for the past 3 years?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pick Wake Forest to beat Florida State again. And I think everyone else is kind of like, oh, Florida State's going to lose to somebody. I'm picking Wake Forest to squeak this one out. I'm going to go 27-24 in favor of Wake Forest.
Nice call.
All right, so now we're going to go Georgia Tech versus North Carolina. The game is at Tech at 8 p.m. And North Carolina's favored by 12 points. Over under is 65. Who y'all got?
Don't know a ton about either of these teams. I know Georgia Tech upset Miami a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
North Carolina's got good offense. I'm going North Carolina. Like them to cover. Let's call this one 34-17.
All right.
I got North Carolina. I'm gonna go 48-34.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like North Carolina to bounce back after a bad loss last year. Virginia, I like them to bounce back. We'll call it 35-24.
All right, so you know what? I actually kind of like Georgia Tech because they hate Georgia so much. So it's going to be hard for me to have to pick against them in this game, but I'm going to. I just don't think that they're going to be able to beat North Carolina, even though it is at home. I'm going to pick North Carolina to win this game. I'm going to say 35-10. All right, so now we've got the 7:30 game. This is Ohio State at Wisconsin. Ohio State's favored by 14.5 points. The over-under is 46.5. Who do y'all have?
Well, no rhyme or reason for this one. I just think OSU will lose the game before they play Michigan.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pick them to lose this one. I got Wisconsin winning this one in a low-scoring game. Let's call it 17-13.
All right.
I got Ohio State. I haven't started over Wisconsin. Yeah, so I think Ohio State 34-14.
Okay.
Yeah, before I pick, I just want to say Big Ten ball is very boring. So I got Ohio State 10-7.
Yeah.
10-7. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, both of these teams, in all honesty, just are not very impressive. That Big Ten ball is just, golly, they're bad. I'm going to say, I guess Ohio State squeaks this one out, but just barely. I'm going to say 21-20.
If you want to go to sleep, that's the game to watch.
Yeah, that's really boring. All right, so Oklahoma, this is the future SEC team next season versus Kansas at noon at Kansas. Oklahoma is favored by 8.5 points. Over under is 66. Who do y'all got?
Brady, Kansas has a quarterback, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I like Kansas in this one at Kansas. I like Kansas to put up some points in this one. Let's call this one 38-27. Kansas.
Yeah, I got Kansas on this one. I'm gonna go 58 to probably 40. Yeah, about probably 58-49.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was watching something earlier. I think Kansas has a good offense, a great offense. They put up a lot of points. They're at home. I like them to pull up this upset in a very high-scoring game, 45-38 Kansas.
Yeah, you know what? That's really funny that y'all all picked Kansas because I had that same feeling going into this game. I was like, man, it feels like Kansas is going to beat Oklahoma just for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But since everyone else picked Kansas, I'm just going to pick OU, and I'm going to say Oklahoma wins this game. We'll call it 37-20. All right, now this is an SEC game. We've got South Carolina versus Texas A&M. The game is at noon at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 17 points. The over-under is 52. Who do y'all got?
It's a big game for Jimbo Fisher and for Carolina. Carolina's on verge of losing six this season, and of course, A&M needs this win. Or they're talking about firing Jimbo Fisher. So I like A&M to come out here, get the W. Mm-hmm. Probably a low-scoring game. Probably 28-10, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got A&M probably. Two bad ball clubs, but yeah, I got A&M.
A&M's pretty good.
Yeah, A&M's all right. So I got A&M probably 34-14.
Yeah, I like A&M 27-10.
27-10. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go A&M to destroy South Carolina. I'm going to go A&M 35-7. All right, so now we've got one at 7:30, Colorado. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let me make sure real quick. If there's any more noon games, I might just get to those. All right, no. So there's no more noon games. I'll tell you what we're going to do, y'all. We're going to put this on pause, and we're going to get back to the show here real quick. And we will get back to the picks a little bit later on. All right, so let's get back into the show. This is something that we did want to talk about. Okay, everyone's been talking about Nico. I want for y'all to, inside of the chat, let us know who do y'all think should be our starter quarterback. If it's Nico, if it's Gaston Moore, tell us who and tell us why. And we want to kind of get into that just because people keep talking about it. Mm-hmm. And this kind of, I was watching a show, and the host was talking about Gaston Moore. And I'm like, dude, like, you know, I like what?
I don't get that. I mean, he's a serviceable, third string guy. Like if he's ever forced into action, I feel confident he can get us out of a game or two. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I feel good about him being kind of the reserve guy. I think he can definitely do that well. But in terms of trying to go out here and win a championship, I don't know if he's a guy I'd really seriously consider. But Nico, I mean, I just feel like, the ceiling is definitely high with Nico. I mean, we haven't seen him in action. Hopefully we get to see him today. We blow these guys out, get to see him. But I don't know, man. I feel like Joe, look at what he did last week, especially in the first half. He did enough for us to win that game. I don't see him being unseated. Now, if we lose today, potentially, we'll look at maybe put Nico in and maybe getting a package for him for UConn, something like that. But I think we're riding with Joe, especially if we're still playing for something.
Yeah, I mean, if we lose today, then, I think it's a little bit of a different ballgame. I want to shout out to Coach Jay. He said that he says, "Good morning, Vol family. Proud coach this morning. My squad moved to 9-1. Congratulations on that, Coach Jay.
Sir.
I know how tough it is to win any game, but to be able to be 9-1 says a whole lot. Bone Honey 101 says, "Good morning, guys. Go Vols." Absolutely. And Ken M says, "Love the picks, little man." So I think he might be talking to you, Kaysen. That's awesome. Now let's see here. Stingray says, "I'm surprised that ESPN picked Tennessee to win. Not that I really care what they think." Yeah. Honestly speaking, man, I don't really too much care for that. College game day is not as good. I don't think as that Fox game, like that Fox morning day, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That one's better. College game day is getting really watered down. It's a whole lot of love to the Big Ten and to the Pac-12 and to the Big 12. Like they almost kind of don't like the SEC, and I'm just tired of watching it. I mean, those other teams and programs, okay, that's great, but. I mean, it's really like, especially that Big Ten.
This year
that is horrible. But let's not get too far off on a tangent. I want to hear what y'all have to say about Nico. Now let's see right here. AJ Lawton says definitely Nico. Gaston didn't cost us $8 million. Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting point. I mean, whenever you talk about that, but I think that $8 million. I mean, that doesn't necessarily, in my mind, that doesn't mean that he has to play. If he doesn't give us the best chance to win. Let's not just force him in there because we're paying him that. Right. And I mean, I'm sure. So Nico is actually making more than that. That was just one deal.
Wow.
He's got more deals. He's making more than that.
Nice.
Joe Milton might be somewhere in that ballpark. There's probably a couple other players that's somewhere in that ballpark. And that's just what it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like these players they're getting paid. But I let me just say this. I think that from what I've seen off of Nico's film, he's obviously a great athlete. You can tell that he's a gamer. He's a guy that's not going to crumble under pressure. You can tell he just has it. Something that we talked about with Ethan Davis. He just some people just have that stone cold. If it's a big moment, they're going to play better. They're not going to back down. Like the opposite of what Dante Thornton has been showing us. Yeah. I think that Nico has that for sure.
I think so.
Do I think that if he comes to this offense, is he going to play well? I think that he would. Does he make us better? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's the hard part. It's like you just don't know if we get better.
You just don't know for sure. I mean, we love his upside, we love the potential, but I still feel like Joe hasn't done enough. And maybe that's kind of from the coach's perspective. Like if you ask any coach, like you're probably not going to see pretty much any coach for whatever team you want to ask, any coach that you want to poll on this question, probably zero coaches will say put Nico in. It's all going to be the fans and kind of people watching it because the coaches understand. Like Joe's doing enough for us to win games.
But Joe doesn't have anybody. He has no wide receiver playmakers on the outside besides Squirrel White.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how many drop passes he's had. Does that change with Nico when people are saying, well, Joe throws the ball too hard? that's just not a real excuse
I don't like that
in
excuse.
college football. You know what I mean? Like that's just not it.
Yeah.
They have got to catch that football because you've got to. Sometimes you do have to throw it hard. Sometimes you can take some off of it and throw a more catchable football. But I think that our biggest problem on this offense is not Joe Milton. It's our playmakers on the outside.
That's what it is.
We don't really have any.
Yeah, we don't have any.
And it's very concerning. We talked about this early on in the show. That's very concerning. Somebody has to step up. And I don't think, regardless of who we bring in, it's going to make much of a difference. You know, who's a better running threat? I would say Joe Milton is over Nico and over Gaston.
Yeah,
I mean,
so.
yeah, you know, Nico can run.
Yeah.
But he's not as powerful.
I feel like Nico would give you more I guess what Nico would probably give you over Joe is Nico has a little Johnny Manziel to him. I think that instead of just kind of getting out of the pocket and kind of rolling out, if somebody comes open, he'll throw it. I think he'll roll out, nobody's there. He'll flip field and come back.
Yeah.
Scrambling, you know what I mean? He'll buy time and give guys a chance to maybe get open. I mean, we're super excited about him. Like,
absolutely.
I think the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, you know, Joe hasn't really done anything yet, and we don't know for sure if it'll be better with Nico. So you can't really make that switch. I think it's kind of more like we said, you know, get through this week, and then UConn. I definitely want to see him play against UConn, see what he can do. Yeah,
and that's something else. I don't know why Coach Heupel hasn't been playing him. There's been a lot of different, you know, answers to that question. People are really just speculating. Could it be because of that offensive line, you know, doesn't want to go out there and get him hurt? I don't know. I mean, I think, hey, I don't know why. I really don't. But, yeah, we need to see him. We need to get some game reps. Is it going to start some controversy? Maybe. But, Coach, I mean, listen, Heupel, you're getting paid, what, $9 million a year or something. Mm-hmm. That's what you're getting paid for. Okay, you have to deal with that criticism and all that, you know, but we do need to see him. And I think that he needs some live game reps. Definitely. So let's get to some of these chats here. Let me see here. So Slim says Nico needs a whole lot more development and game experience. Moore is nowhere near ready for the field, in my opinion. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, you know, you have to keep in mind, Gaston Moore looked good in that orange and white game, but he is a walk-on. Mm-hmm. So I just don't, you know, I don't think that his talent level it's definitely not anywhere near what Joe's is. So, like, let's say if we're looking at these guys from like a Madden rating, you know, view, I mean, Joe Milton starts the season off preseason rated, I would say overall maybe about like a 95 because he can throw the ball. Like his power on his throws is 100.
Yeah, his attributes are through the roof.
Yeah, like all of his attributes are way through the roof.
His awareness is probably a daggum 34.
Yeah, that's pretty low. But Gaston Moore would be like the exact opposite. Okay, he would probably. I mean, I would say at best maybe like a 65 overall,
something like that.
I mean, if even that. I mean, so you have to understand it's like night and day difference. It's a huge difference between these guys. Let's get into what John B says here. He says only the coaching staff truly knows who will be the best quarterback option, or who will be the best quarterback option is. These coaches see them every day in practice. We fans have seen very limited in-game play from Nico. I have to agree with that for sure. But then AJ Lawton says, I think the money makes it his job to lose. Got to live up to the 5 stars. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. But also, you got to think about it. He's still a true freshman. Yeah. As a 5-star, we don't necessarily. I mean, like look at Manning out there at Texas. He hasn't even sniffed the football field, has he? Yeah, and he was in a lot of on a lot of different sites. He was rated higher than Nico is. So.
And kind of touch on that too is you don't want to create a culture, you know, within your program where these 5 stars just think they're entitled to come in here and play because you're a 5-star. Like you got to still come in here and work, and you got to be the best guy. And right now, I just don't think Nico's quite there just yet.
Yeah. Now let's see here. Mike C. Problem is we wouldn't have known how good Hooker was if Milton didn't get hurt. Heupel is loyal to his running. Now that is the best point. Okay. Point. Yeah, and that has been my argument to this thing the entire time because Hendon Hooker, I mean, clearly is a better quarterback than what Milton is, and he was behind Milton. And if Milton didn't get hurt, we would never. I mean, our season last year probably wouldn't have been what it ended up being.
I will say this. I do feel like a change was coming after that Pittsburgh game. I mean, there's no way to know for sure, but I do feel like a change was going to come. And, you know, I'll also say this. Hendon was what, like 22, 23, however old he was. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he wasn't an 18-year-old kid like Nico is. Yeah. So there's a little bit of difference there, but that is a great, excellent point because you never know what the backup is until you see him in action. We just haven't had a chance to really see Nico yet.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So that is an excellent point, though. Let's see what else we got. John B says, that being said, at one time Hooker was sitting on. Okay, yep. So same thing.
Same point.
Same point. Let's see. Ricky Williams. Good morning, Blue Chip. Just remember, UK stands for the University of Kroger, home of the Fighting Lettuce Heads. Brought to you in a paper or plastic stadium. Go Big Orange. Yeah, I absolutely love that.
Love that, baby.
I guess we can kind of get back into it. If you don't have any more thoughts, let me see what else we got on Nico right here. James Schrum says, if you play Nico now, you lose any confidence Joe has. Yeah, and that could be true too. I mean, you don't want to. I don't fully agree with the whole standpoint of once you play Nico, you can't go back. I don't think that that's 100% true. These guys, they've got to be stronger mentally. I don't necessarily think that it means that we lose our entire locker room either, because they need to be more bought into this team instead of who they like on this team playing. Yeah. Your job as a player is to come out and do the best thing for this team to win, and that is executing what the coaches tell you in the game plan. And the game plan is whoever's playing, if it's Scott Wimsdale, off of the street, your job is to go out as a player and play your best with Scott Wimsdale. It doesn't matter. So I don't necessarily like that narrative either, but I do believe that this coaching staff feels like Joe Milton gives us the best opportunity to win. Casey, do you have any thoughts? You're getting kind of antsy over there. What's going on?
Yeah, you ready to see Nico, or you just want to stick with Joe?
Yeah, I'm ready to see Nico at a game.
I'm ready to see Nico too.
Yep. Everybody is. I mean, people definitely want to see him. So let's kind of get back into this game. Do y'all have any hot takes on this game? Do you have anybody who you think is going to have a really big day, rushing or tackle wise, sack wise, any of that?
Like a one kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna call it a hot take. I do think we'll see a fake from Kentucky on special teams today.
Yeah,
so
we have to watch out for those fakes.
Have your antennas up, and I think Joe picks up kind of where he started off or where he left off, kind of the first half of that Bama game. I think Joe goes for probably over 300 yards today. I think he has a great day.
Yeah, I do too. I could definitely see that. Do you have any hot takes?
No.
I'm gonna say that. So let's see. Ray Davis is averaging 7 yards per carry. I think that he got, what was it, 4.5 up against Georgia? It was something like that. I think that we hold him to a lower yards per carry average than anybody else has in this entire season. I think that we hold him up under 4 yards per carry. I think that this defense really shows up. I think that we have a really, really big game. I think that Joe Milton plays well. I think that our running backs play well. I just feel like we're going to be really dominant in this game. Now, I was conservative with my pick, but that's just because it just all depends on what Tennessee team shows up. Do they get up for this game? And if they do, we are going to be very, very dominant in this game. I also think that we have a wide receiver that goes for over 120 yards today. Who am I going to pick on this one? I'm going to say that Chaz Nimrod. Let's just take a shot in the dark. I'm going to go Chaz Nimrod has over 120 yards today.
He's going to be open
in this game. Yeah.
He's going to be open.
He most definitely will be. Let's also get into some of the playmakers for Kentucky, because I didn't get too much into this before. Now, we all know about Ray Davis. We all know about their quarterback, Leary, but they've also got some wide receivers who can make some things happen too. And the guy that I really want to take a good, strong look at is Barian Brown, who's from Nashville. Okay, he's number 17, 6'1", 166 pounds. He's got 23 catches, 276 yards, and only one touchdown in this season. But usually whenever guys are playing up against their home state team, especially coming from a different state, they usually have a really big game. And I think that the coaches kind of want to feed the football to him. So, I think that Barian Brown could, be a guy that Kentucky tries to target in this game. So,
do you know what number he is?
He's number 17.
Okay, 17. Okay, yeah, 17. He's a solid guy, especially us having Kamal Hadden out. Got to watch out for him. But, I just think we're going to really stymie the run game and be able to get after the passer, so he don't have a whole lot of time. I think you'll probably see him getting the ball more so on those jet sweeps and things like to do, getting to him quick.
Yep, absolutely. He's a lot more of their, speedy guy. But so their best wide receiver is Tavion Robinson. He's number 9. He's 5'11", 194 pounds. Or he's done the best. So he's got 23 catches, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he's averaging about 15 yards per catch. So he's a guy that the defense definitely has to shut down. We've got to be able to win our one-on-one battles on the outside on defense and on offense. And this is going to be a really interesting matchup just because we want to see how the secondary plays without Haddon. So hopefully our guys are up to that challenge and they can slow some of these guys down. Now, one of the other guys that I'm probably a little bit more concerned about just because of his size and his stature, that's Dane Key, okay? And he is from Kentucky. He's number 6, 6'3", 195 pounds, 17 catches, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging about 17 yards per catch. And, he's more that tougher guy. We're going to have to make sure that we keep a close eye on him and just try to slow him down. A lot of their passes I guess a lot of their success on passes comes from play action because a lot of teams are just going to be keying a lot harder on their run game. Expect a lot of screens and things like that to try to slow down Tennessee's pass rush. But outside of that, we've got to do a good job of getting too leery. And we've got the South Carolina game up right now versus Texas A&M. Looks like South Carolina, somebody just broke their hand, that linebacker or whatever. Boy, just slow coming off that
Carolina's
edge.
Getting after.
He's getting held.
Getting after the
I think
pass.
they got like 3 sacks already.
Man.
Stupid.
Look like he broke his fingers over here kicking and screaming.
Yeah, he's making a big deal out of a broken finger. Football is different. Football is different. I'm sorry to kind of get off. I'm sorry to kind of get off, but let me just say this, okay? We went back and we was watching 2009 college football. We watched that. I hate to say this, but Bama versus LSU game. If you want to see this is a completely different sport, go back and watch that game. Okay, it is nowhere near. There is not a team in this country that is playing like what those games were like. I mean, it was you snap the ball and the quarterback is running for the life. You snap it and you're throwing it. Okay,
people get knocked out.
People get knocked out left and right. I mean, it's fast, it's physical. I mean, it's running backs. Yeah, it's Trent Richardson with a full head of steam. I think up against it's like Eric Reed or something playing safety. 20-yard head of steam and boom. I mean,
collision there.
Yeah, dude, the entire game. And it's like, I was like, man, this seems like football is a lot more exciting back in the day. And I just went back and I watched, I said, yeah, this is not even the same sport. Yeah. This is a whole lot more grabbing, a whole lot more, turning down. Yeah. So anyway,
celebrating.
I mean, it's not even those teams back then. I know this is way off on a tangent, but those teams back then would smack any team in this country right now, and just because they were warriors, you know what I mean? I mean, it was completely different. So hopefully we can get more players like that. So Brew's one of those guys who could have played back then. Yeah. I think Nico's a guy who is tough enough, strong enough, dog enough to get out there. Guys like Jerry T, put him out there, fast, physical, hungry for some action.
Sprague, type of guys.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Beasley, I'll tell you, Beasley, he'll stick his face in there.
Oh, yeah. Beasley for sure will stick his daggone face in there. He's going to stick his nose in it. Yeah, nah.
I mean, I have to say probably the way he's been playing.
But hey, but listen,
6 quarters maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about Georgia, hey, I don't know. Is there anybody on Georgia's team that could have survived back then? No, Georgia is not done. This season versus last year's Georgia team, those guys ain't no daggone. They ain't playing like that. They ain't fast, physical, get in your face. Heck, I saw them getting pushed around by, Kentucky, Vandy. I mean, they're getting pushed around on a consistent basis. UT Martin.
I mean, come on.
18.
I can't wait, y'all. Listen, I've kind of been working on this, and I don't know if I want to put this out just yet, and I don't want to get too far, but I'll say this. I've got something nice lined up for that Georgia week, okay? Nice. We've got a few nice things. You want to talk about a team that I can't wait to see? I can't wait to see.
We've been saying that for a long time.
They turn it down big time all the time. I can't wait to see them. Let me get into this super chat right here from Wesley Abrams because we just went way off. We start talking about guys laying down on the field. Wesley Abrams says, why don't we see the freshman QB? So, Wesley, that is a great question, and we have to get into this before we do that.
Love that.
Anytime we get a super chat, we're always going to play that one. But so Wesley, we were just kind of talking about the whole Nico thing. I don't know why necessarily we haven't seen him. I think that for the most part, I think we're all on the same page with this. It's because Joe Milton has played well enough that we haven't really needed Nico. It hasn't too much been Joe Milton. I think it's been a whole lot more of our playmakers not making plays for Joe Milton. And excuse me, you can even go back to that A&M game. Oh, wait a second. Kansas has got a pick 6 up against Oklahoma early. Nice. We all had that same feeling, but let me get back to Wesley Adams' question. It doesn't seem like our playmakers are doing a whole lot to help Joe Milton out. And if you go back to that A&M game, we had a whole bunch of drop passes. Well, I mean, we had a couple of touchdown passes dropped or guys giving up on routes. So it's not so much of Joe Milton. I think that Joe Milton, being that veteran guy who came back and stuck it out for this team and actually helped us out a lot, putting us in a good position to have a chance this season by coming back and, being patient, being that good guy off the field when Hendon Hooker took over. And, a lot of guys could have tapped out, but Joe Milton paid his dues. And I think that Josh Heupel is a very loyal guy. And you have to take your hat off to him for that. I mean, he's a very loyal guy, so he's going to stick with Joe Milton. And, I think until Joe Milton does something just outrageously terrible that puts his team in a bad situation, we're probably not going to see a whole lot of Nico. Now, I actually expect maybe in this game, maybe we'll see a little bit of Nico. Maybe we can get up early.
I was going to say that, and kind of to your point, Wesley. We're not necessarily saying that Nico should be starting, but why haven't we seen him at all? I think that's a great valid question, and a part of the reason we haven't really had any big leads against anybody all season. But I would like to see maybe a package or two here and there, just get him some reps, give him an opportunity to get in there and play, get his feet wet. Yeah. I know it's tough with our tempo, but I mean, I love for us to find a way to get him in the game for sure. Yeah. That's the only thing is with that tempo, it is difficult. Something else too, just to kind of like go with what we were just talking about with us not having any playmakers on the outside with guys like D. I think that I think that the coaching staff is really trying to get him acclimated to playing in our system because we do need some help. Yeah. So, does he get a package this week? Does he get a series? I think that it's time because I don't want to see, I'm going to keep on saying this. I don't want to see Dante Thornton out there. I just don't. Let's not waste up any reps on him. He's just in our way. Yeah. So I don't care who we put in there. I don't want to see him anymore. I'm sick of the drop passes. I'm sick of the nonchalant attitude. And listen, I hope that you prove me wrong, Dante. I hope that you come back and I hope that you play well. But as of right now, anybody else is better than what he's giving us because he's not giving us a thing. He's taking up space at this point. Yep. I agree.
Passionate about that. Let's see what else we got. AJ Lofton says, same, I'm from Georgia and hate my own state because of the dog fans. Go Big Orange. Yeah. So anybody who lives in Georgia, you're going to understand just how frustrating these Georgia fans are. I mean, it is very, very, very frustrating. Let's get to some more of these chats here before we wrap this thing up. Tennessee Mountain says football ain't the same because boys today wear skinny jeans and their hair in buns like women.
Hey, for real.
That's funny.
Different generation of men.
Yeah. Wesley Abrams says Ramel Keaton dropped touchdowns. Yes, he did. Sir Frankie the Pug says, is Kenny Philly back today? No, he's not. At the very, very, very earliest, it'll be back next week, and probably not. It'll probably be the week after that. But he is gearing up, and we should see more practice reps from him, which is going to be great for us. So let's finish up these picks. We're going to get back into these picks real quick, and then we're going to wrap this thing up.
Okay, Nico, it's Harbor.
All right, so let's get into the picks here. We've got UCLA versus Colorado. The game is at UCLA. It's at 7:30. UCLA is favored by 15 points, over under 61 points. You know what's crazy? I just want to say this. Y'all wouldn't even know this, but my dog has been sitting right here this entire time, and you have not heard a peep from him. He's been a lot stiller than these kids have been up here. All right, so let's see what's y'all's picks for this game.
Listen, I don't really know much about UCLA. I know they got Chip Kelly. They're a decent team. I think I'm going to go for UCLA to win this one. I think it'll be probably a close game. Let's go 31-28 UCLA.
All right.
I got Colorado on this one. I got 41-14 Colorado.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I got Colorado 38-35.
38-35? Okay. Dang. I would like to go for Coach Prom in this one, but I just don't really see it. The game is at UCLA, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go UCLA to win this one in a close one. Over under 61. Dang, it could be a big shootout. I'm going to go 38-35 UCLA. So, close one.
Yeah.
All right, next one. We've got Utah versus Oregon. The game is at Utah. Oregon is favored by 6.5 points. Starts at 3:30. Over under is 47. Who y'all got?
This is an interesting matchup. Utah is typically probably one of the more physical teams in that conference, but Oregon is now as well with Dan Lanning as their guy. I don't think Utah will be able to do what they did against who was it, USC? I think they played last week.
Yeah,
I think Oregon will be able to match their physicality. I like Oregon to win this one. Probably, we'll call it 35-24. Oregon.
35.
I'm going for the upset. I got Utah, probably 14-20. Utah.
Smart man.
Nice
Go ahead.
call.
Yeah, I like Oregon. I think Bo Nix comes out there, throws the ball around these guys. I like Oregon 49-21.
49-21. Wow, man, you're going way over. So I'm going to go in this one. I have a feeling that Utah is going to win too. It's something about Utah. They play good, solid defense, and then they are at home. I'm sure there's something about that, like elevation and all that stuff might play a little bit of a difference. I don't know how much of a difference it is between Utah and Oregon, but there's got to be there's got to be a higher elevation, I would imagine, in Utah. I'm going to pick Utah to win this game. I'm going to go 28-20. Favorite Utah.
Good call.
All right, so now we've got Ole Miss versus Vandy. The game is at Ole Miss. It's at 7:30. Ole Miss is favored by 24.5. Over under 62.5. Who do y'all have in this one?
This is honestly a game I could see Ole Miss somehow losing it. I feel like Lane Kiffin's known for losing games he shouldn't lose once a season. But I'm not picking them to lose this one. I got Ole Miss winning this one. Probably put up 45 points on those guys. Let's call it 45-17 Ole Miss.
All right.
Yeah, I got Ole Miss on this one too. Probably 14-38.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss 45-7.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ole Miss too. I'm going to say it's not going to be that much. So I'm going to say 35-24 Ole Miss. All right, now for the big one. I've already made my predictions, but it's our Volunteers in Kentucky at Kroger Field, paper or plastic, 7 p.m. Vols are favored by 4, or they were at the time that I set this whole thing up. Over under is 51 points. P, who you got?
Man, this is a game Kentucky's going to come out here and try to probably limit the big plays. Like kind of similar to how they did last season, tried to limit them but couldn't do it. We'll kind of see them in that little zone coverage they like to run. But I think we'll get guys open down the field, and Joe will connect on them. I think we'll score a lot of points in this game. I got us putting up at least 38. And I think we'll be able to stymie their run game, which is really makes them one-dimensional. We'll get after the passer and kind of run away with this one. I got the Vols win this one 41-14. Or, let's call it 41-13, Tennessee.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, all Kentucky has this Davis. So that's all Tennessee has to do. Just stop the running back. So yeah, I got Tennessee 58,
Nice.
14.
Love it.
Yeah, I got Tennessee. I'll say 42-14. I expect them to come and throw the ball all around on Kentucky. I think Joe Milton goes for over 400 passing yards today.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
I love it. Yep. So I already gave y'all mine, and so y'all already know how I'm rolling. Of course, I'm picking my Volunteers. And man, look, we really, really appreciate everybody just for chiming in.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the super chats. Always love those. That helps us out tremendously. And thank y'all so much. We are going to be back hopefully after this game. We got to get it figured out though, because Bray's got a game. Playoff time down here, and so it's gonna be tough, but we are expecting to come back after the game, so we hope that y'all join us whatever time that is. We'll get that out for you, but as always, man, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we are going to see y'all a little bit later on today. Hopefully we get the big win. Go Vols.